Participants in all our call-in talk shows are reminded to turn radios down while speaking on air. When you get through to the show, you'll hear the radio on your telephone. That's your signal to hold on. You're next in line. Please adhere to all guidelines set by your host to ensure your welcome participation in all forums on Talk Radio 1. The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of the host, Radio 1, its staff, or sponsors of the broadcast.
Music, culture, arts, crime, politics, and romance. These are some of the topics and issues people care about. Well, on Talk PM, we care about these issues too. So, tune into Talk PM on Wednesdays with your gentleman host, Matthew V. Thomas and Kanai McCarthy on AM 1000. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Don't miss the opportunity to discuss the matters that are affecting you. This is Talk PM. U.S. Virgin Islands, you're listening to Caribbean's news, talk, weather, and sports station. Online, on air, WVWI, AM 1000, the new Radio 1. Talk PM. It's the hour of 7 o'clock. And we are your gentleman hosts. This is Talk PM.
Local police report to the FBI killing at least 400 people a year. From 2006 to 2012, a white police officer killed a black person at least twice a week in this country.
So young black men face special challenges. So joining me now to talk about this, Mr. Charles Blow, CNN political commentator and New York Times op-ed columnist. Sonny Hostin, CNN legal analyst and a former federal prosecutor, and Mississippi rapper David Banner, who had some pretty controversial things to say on Twitter in the wake of the shooting of Michael Brown. And David, let's start with you. Let's get this out of the way. I'd like to address something that you wrote on Twitter that got a lot of attention, saying that it's not only cops who seem to devalue black lives. You wrote this. You said, "Our situation is more psychological than people will admit. Black kids kill black kids for the same reason cops do. They see no value." So many took you to task for that. Do you think that what you wrote was taken out of context? Explain what you meant by it.
What I was saying is that white cops do not see value in young black men. And the reason why a lot of young black men, not all black men, kill each other is because they don't see any value either. America historically has always tortured, killed, and enslaved black people. And I have not forgot that.
Let's talk to some parents now. So, Charles, you have 3 kids. Do you warn them, that they will be treated differently because of their skin color? I'm sure you do.
I think you have to be judicious. You want to give them enough information to keep them safe, but you don't want to overburden them with so much that it breaks their spirit. The skin that you are born into is an immutable trait. It cannot be changed, nor should it be changed.
And Sonny, I want to bring you in. You are a mom. You have a son. What conversation do you have with him?
Well, I think we can make this pretty simple, because the bottom line is we're living in a post-Trayvon Martin, post-Zimmerman trial world. And any parent of color, a Latino or African-American parent, must have these conversations with their children. It is just really a reality. It's the same conversation that parents have with their children about look both ways before you cross the street. And the bottom line is that I see my child, I see my son, when I see Trayvon Martin, when I see Jordan Davis, when I see Michael Brown, I feel their pain, I empathize, and I realize that there but for the grace of God goes my child. And what do I do to protect my child? I've got to have those discussions.
I disagree with that, because you tell me what didn't Trayvon Martin do that our parents teach him? He did everything that he was supposed to do. He acknowledged that he was there. He got on the phone. He called somebody. He said, hey, you need to get away from me. He ran away. It's like, what are you supposed to do? Like you put your hands up, you tell them that you don't have a gun. The thing that America is telling our children, and this is the sad part, that black folks, if you don't make me comfortable, we will kill you.
Let's have a very real moment here.
I also think, though, that it is a very dangerous message for us to send to our children and for America to send to any child who lives in America that your skin can emit a threat response in another human being, and they can feel justified in taking your life.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is Talk PM, your evening stop for you to socialize constructively. Brought to you by your gentleman hosts, Matthew V. Thomas, Kenan McCarthy, and occasionally a special guest, which we have here tonight. This is Matthew Thomas. Join us live by dialing 774-8255. That number again is 774-8255. Find, join, and interact with us on Facebook by typing in Talk PM on AM 1000. And also email us a topic of concern or interest at talkpmvi@gmail.com. This show we prepared for you tonight is titled Racism, Reality or Myth?
Ferguson, Missouri. It has been happening. Trayvon Martin, the recent case also in New York where this individual was choked to death in custody of the police.
Yeah, and you could hear him saying, I can't breathe.
And I know how much it's resonated with the community at this point, but it's really beginning to open the eyes of even myself and really a lot of people in our society today. Racism is prevalent, and I mean, a lot of us, especially here in the Caribbean, from my perspective, may not have always been in a situation where they have been victims of this directly. I really do believe our lifestyle here in the Caribbean is so much more different than those are in the mainland, where they're really the minorities in those areas. Case in point, you see that on any given day, a young black man can be murdered practically right there by the police officer without cause.
Yes.
And then they then lead to find all sorts of justification for the act. It is really a pressing issue, and I'm really interested to see how we get to resolve this and how we have as a people really try to deal with this. I mean, just the other day too in basketball, we had the issue with Donald Sterling. I know, and one thing that is clear now that you see, it doesn't matter your status as a black person. Because as we're reading and we're doing some research as to how long this has been happening, you see that you have African Americans were arrested even in Hollywood, in Riverdale, California, in Montgomery County, Maryland, high-end areas of our mainland. Blacks that are even doing well, they too are victims of this crime. And if you remember years ago too, I think it was a Harvard professor that they arrested him. He was practically trying to get into his own home.
Yes.
Testament is out there, the different evidence of examples to show you that, especially with the law authority, when they're out there and they look at us as a completely different segment of a community, and they really do place their actions on us different than they would do for the other races.
So you would agree that it's a reality, it's not a myth. You would take the side of racism is very real, as I'm in front of you and the sky is blue. Racism is something that we can feel and see. You would agree?
Most definitely.
Okay. You know, and as you were saying the cases, I remember the most recent case where a judge was outside in her civilian clothes taking a smoke. Apparently, the smoke blew in the direction of somebody, I guess, looked down on her. And the person insulted her, degraded her to scum, spit on her, not knowing that this lady is a judge. It was very easy for her to press charges and sentence him. But it's like, it doesn't matter what clothing you put on. At the end of the day, there is a war being raised against people of melanin.
The question is it so much as racism as it is stereotyping? Don't get me wrong, racism does exist. We all, every one of us have experienced. What I think is mostly stereotypes. You know, you see a black guy walking on the street, you think he's a thug. You know what I mean?
Why do you think that?
Because in your back of your mind, again, stereotype, you automatically go to that.
And who put that there?
That's a good question.
It's propaganda. Because a lot of people,
not
for instance, the issue...
propaganda, but I mean, we put that out there also. I mean,
yes, but for instance, in Ferguson, a lot of people don't know what to believe other than what they're hearing on the media unless they're there. People were pulling black on black crime. It's high everywhere, so it must be high in Ferguson. But somebody said, you know what, let me vet this statement. And it was found that they don't have high crime. They don't have black on black crime. I mean, crime and people is ubiquitous. It's happening all over. But at the same time, they pulled that card and that card wasn't working. And then they say, okay, well, they're breaking in and they're looting black businesses. First of all, did you do your research to understand if it is really black businesses? It may not be. Maybe they are targeting a different type of demographic other than black businesses because they say, you know what, we won't do this to ourselves. We don't know.
I don't really think that even matters. You're breaking the law. You're looting, you're stealing. You don't do that. That's against the law. Black, white, whoever the owner is, you're breaking the law. To me, that doesn't hold any water as far as what the real issue is.
You know, what is racism? Racism, the definition, or one of the many definitions, is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior.
And it really tends to hit on the person's origin, skin color,
yes,
and nationality. Whereas if you look at stereotyping, it's more usually on physical characteristics. But it can look murky at times as to how do you differentiate.
I think we all stereotype, black and white. We all stereotype, but you might not even know you stereotype because
I think we all do it.
We
all do it. If I see somebody that looks a certain way in my mind until they prove me wrong.
Especially if someone looks suspicious.
Yeah.
Well, we have a caller, so let's go to that caller. Hello, caller. Good night.
Yes, good evening. Am I on the air?
Yes, you are.
On the air. Hello, good night.
Hello. I guess that person didn't want to be on the air.
But what I want to head on to, Mr. B, as you made your last statement, and do you remember the statement that Mr. Mark Cuban made? Paraphrasing, he was saying that, okay, everyone, stereotypes and we all judge. And he said, okay, if he's on one side of the road and he sees a black person.
I remember,
So what do you think about that comment? Because he's trying to say, okay, we all think that way.
I think he was saying what he felt and being honest with him. He got a lot of backlash for that, but he was really being honest on how he views things.
And it seems as though the caller is trying to get back. So let's go to that caller again. Hello, caller, good night.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
What about the investigation?
The investigation is still ongoing. So right now it's just a lot of people rioting.
Of course, with all of this going on, they want to make it sure they get it right.
And I recall
the first time.
Actually, he flew down there today. I'm not sure what the result is going to be because we know they were, at least I recall, was trying to be involved in the
Let me tell you this.
Martin case too. So,
well, I heard
I don't know how, despite the big names, or so-called big names are there, I don't know can we really rely on that to say we're going to get true justice.
It's never in the power of those leaders per se. It's in the power of the people. There was a young kid that said, this ain't Florida. This is Missouri. So it's going to be in the power of the people. They've been trying to contain these people, and they can't contain the people because the people are in an uproar. They want this police officer's head, and they're not going to stop until they get it. Caller, you still there?
He dropped off?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone had an idea as to how this incident went down. But I know they were saying that, okay, the individual was there, Mr. Brown. Well, he got shot, then he turned around, placed his hand up, surrendering, and the officer still shot at him.
No, I think when you say shot, we kind of water down the scenario. He was assassinated.
No, but I'm just trying to describe from beginning to end. And so now,
very colorful,
the officer then proceeded to go towards him
and shoot.
And then even at that point, he still continued his shooting parade.
He was assassinated. Let's call it.
Yeah, it was as if he was in a war zone at that point, shooting an unarmed individual that was already surrendering. Hello, caller. Good night.
Hey, gentlemen. Good night. How are you guys doing?
How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, good. Nice program. I think it's a program that we really need to bring to the forefront. And I mean, it's so unfortunate that we only talk about it, especially so much or in depth when something happens. Like you say, racism is front and center. It's not even hidden anymore. It's right in your face. And it's a part of what we live in right now. But at the same time, the only thing I don't like, because I'm in favor of them, I mean, they need to march, they need to let their voices be heard. But the only thing I don't like, because sometimes just like one of the cops, I don't know if you have seen the little clips on it before, when he called them animals, you know, and sometimes with some of the actions or the behavior of some of the protesters, you know, almost like we putting ourselves in a box, you know, when we resorting to violence to solve it. You know, we know there's a lot of frustration, we know there's a lot of empathy going on, and hurt at the same time, because we know there was a massive injustice, and this is just sometimes we don't have a way of coming out. But I really don't think, and that's the only part of it I don't like, is when we resorting to violence. It's almost stereotyping ourselves back again, you know, to say, well, this is the only way you guys can solve issues is through violence, you know, and we know violence is only through a small percentage of the few that for the many thousands that there, you know, but as a mindset of most of the time when people see things, they're not going to look at the good.
Yes.
You know, 90% of the time they're going to look at the small percentage of the bad, and then that's what they're going to run with.
Yes.
You know, but it's a real injustice, and you say racism is front and center, and we don't need to talk about it when a young black person gets, you know, injured or killed. We need to bring it up front, because a lot of times sometimes you see you as a young black man walking, and from the time you see a person of a different race, I mean, especially white, the first thing how they have the bags, you know, clutch under the arm, like they almost suspicious of you, is that all you could do is rob, steal, and there's nothing good about us.
Stereotyping.
You know, and it's unfortunate. Sometimes we put ourselves in the box, and we need to do a lot of self-examination also. But at the same time, you know, a lot of injustice has been done, and it continues to be done. You know, and until we keep talking about it, we will be in this. It will just be another, you know, Trayvon Martin, and another.
And
as
anyway,
to go, guys, have a good night.
You have a good night. To go back to what he was saying, the violence isn't needed and whatnot, I beg to differ. In any type of major change, blood is going to need to be shed. That's my opinion.
Malcolm X said that.
That's my opinion now, because but I understand where he's coming from. You don't want to be too extreme and whatnot. In my opinion, just in my opinion, it's needed, really. Yeah, there's other ways to handle the situation. Nobody takes you serious until something happens, right?
Yeah,
that's when they react. You know, you could talk and say, oh, we need this legislator, we need this, whatnot. But the reaction comes from physical violence, really. And that is my opinion. I'm not saying that is the best way to go. I agree with you. But it is effective.
Because if you go back to slavery, if you think that the slaves, if they stayed passive and they did not rise up and burn things down, do you think we would have been as far as we were today?
No, not at all.
And the only reason Ferguson is getting so much coverage is because they're doing it. Once protesters said, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do that. But if we did not, we would not get the coverage that we're getting now.
And again, like I'm saying, like it might not be the best way, but it is effective.
Squeaky wheel gets the oil. Let's take our next caller.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, you're on the air.
Yeah, good evening. The reason I'm really upset to hear you guys. The previous caller, I support him 100%. I'm black, right? And I hate to see my black color responding in this kind of way to an incident. I mean, you're burning down your own community, and you want him to be forgetting that this black guy, I'm black too, but this black guy robbed a store.
No, that's propaganda. And we don't even know if that's him in the video. They're just saying that's him because the two incidents are unrelated.
Did the store owner confirm that or not, that it was him?
No, the store owner didn't even call police. That's why it's two unrelated things. You have to look at you have to look at the situation, and you cannot just believe what you hear. He did not rob the store. That is what they put out there.
Start him up. Yeah, Carla, that's not
true. That is false.
Not factual, is it?
They're trying to paint this guy in such a bad image to make people justify, like, okay, he got what was coming to him. The both incidents were unrelated.
Release was, hey, he actually robbed the store before this and whatnot. He was a suspect. But what the store owner came out and said was, hey, no, we didn't report any stolen anything and whatnot. So
the police is trying to paint a picture that, okay, this guy robbed the store and then he was on the run, and then the police came and they got him and they tracked him down. Not a thing or so. The two incidents were unrelated. Police are just trying to link them together, so we paint him as a bad person.
Carl, you still there? Carl, you still there?
No, I don't think so.
But going back to what he was saying, he was disappointed. Was hearing us talk the way I understand. I understand it is that way. I'll let him, see what he has to say.
And in regards to the caller that said he was a criminal, just because you commit a crime, does that mean you deserve to die? He was an unarmed man.
Absolutely.
And why I say there's racism a lot, and we are even racist against our own selves. When that gentleman for the movies, when Batman Forever, and he shoot up the whole place, he was escorted. If that was somebody of color, they would have been gunned down. And somebody did I think it was David Banner. He said, in America, white people have the privilege of doing crimes of that caliber and being escorted to a vehicle. Black men don't have that privilege.
Well, in recent history,
unarmed.
So this is what happened. Jackson said that Officer Wilson went to the area after a 911 call reporting a strong armed robbery.
That's
false.
Noon,
okay?
That's false.
Then he said a dispatcher gave a description of the robbery suspect, and
That's
Wilson,
false.
who had been assisting on another call, was sent to
False.
investigate.
I mean, that's all false, because what happened?
He's saying what they said, so now
You know what sparked the whole incident? The fellas was in the middle of the street. I don't know if they was in transit to be on the other side of the street, but they was in the middle of the street. And the officer said, get explicit to the other side of the street. He spoke to them in a very degrading manner.
Allegedly.
You know what?
They
These
assaulted the
cops
officers,
crooked.
and then they say shots were fired before he reached out to the street where Brown was killed. But we have some more callers, so let's go to the next caller. Hello, caller. Good night.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening. You're on the air.
Yeah, you have a very good, interesting program.
Thank you.
But you see, sometimes you need some of the people that's here to go live in the States. Okay? Before
why you say that?
Oh, no.
We lost.
We having some technical difficulties here, and the calls are being dropped. We're not dropping them, so please call back.
For sure.
A caller sometimes back said about the protesters and being referred to as animals. You have to understand, you have to study stories and the legacy of Marcus Garvey, the legacy of Malcolm X, of Martin Luther King. And you got to understand the government and other entities that are anti-African get involved and put spies in place. You have people right now in Ferguson who are not a part of Ferguson, but who joined the riots and who are causing or who are portraying themselves as animals to make the conglomerate of Ferguson protesters look like animals. So you have people all the time trying to make the race or the community look bad. This is true, because they caught on camera this one guy threw a brick, and they were like, "Why did you throw a brick? Who you work for?" And he's like, "Were you hired by the police?" And they're questioning him, and he's now hiding his face, and this is caught on camera. So you now have spies or whoever they are with a different agenda to make the people of Ferguson look like animals.
We will develop this.
This is not far from the truth.
Hello, caller. Good night.
Good evening. I would like to, I agree with your comments that America is a whole racist place, and from the time it started, the black man was never a human being, and they show up to the day that they classify him as a subhuman. But in
oh man,
this is crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah, but one interesting facts too. So they have a prosecutor in this case now, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the prosecutor has a long history, long ties there with the police department. And his father was a police, got murdered when he was young. His mom was a police, his uncle and his cousin. And so now part of the backlash is that, okay, you're putting this prosecutor here and we don't expect much out of it because we know he is completely advocating for the boys, and we don't expect a fair case. And it's also noted that some months back as well that it was a similar incident where undercover police officers from that department shot and killed some black men unarmed, and he chose not to move forward with prosecuting that case. So those are some of the other issues too that are in the air. So reminding you again about the Trayvon Martin.
So much chaos.
Yeah, so he's supposed to be here now trying to really fight for justice for the people, but he is supporting now. He almost as though he's going to be more of an advocate for the police officers more so than finding that relief for the family.
Obviously, they're trying some kind of little cover up or patch. The chief who was talking on CNN the other day, the stuff he was saying was just out there. He wasn't prepared to talk to the media, and the media took advantage of that, you know.
And here's some interesting stats too. The fact that out of, and this is in the state of Oakland, California, out of 45 officer-involved shootings in the city between 2004 and 2008, 37 of those shot were black individuals, and none were white, and actually no weapons were found on 40% of those individuals. But we'll deliberate into that some more, but let's go to the next caller that we have.
Oh, boy. Apologize, caller. We call back again, and we'll see what we can do and try to fix this. You know what I'm interested to find out? Yeah. How is that related to the white population? You know, how many whites were killed when they were when they weren't armed or they had any weapons on them? How many black officers killed? You know, white people or Caucasian? Those numbers I would like to find out. You know, that would be really interested to compare.
So, thank you callers for calling in. And again, feel free to call in at any moment. Stock PM 774-8255, and we're gonna go to a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
At Great Minds Tutoring Service, we too believe in education. If your child needs assistance, assist him or her by calling Great Minds Tutoring Service 340-227-5915. Visit our website, greatmindsts.com.
Great Minds Tutoring Service 340-227-5915. Invest in your child today.
'Cause darling, I will get good grades for you.
Facing the loss of a loved one is one of the most difficult realities to grasp. During this emotional period, we understand how hard it can be for families to do proper maintenance towards that grave or memorial.
At Grave Care Virgin Islands, we offer premier burial and memorial maintenance services. We are ready to assist you if you are unable to do so yourself.
Call us today at 340-643-8898 and also visit us via webpage at gravecarevi.com.
All right, thank you for joining us. We're back. Our topic tonight is racism, reality or myth. We are currently having some technical difficulties with the phone lines, so we'll try to keep the discussion as interesting as possible between us three gentlemen hosts. Based on the calls that we've had and among ourselves, I think it's safe to say that racism is very real, and some callers highlighted that America is a very racist place. And I think for somebody to not identify America with racism is almost to not identify yourself as a living, breathing human being, because America was built on racism, and in order to get away from racism,
do we have to focus on racism?
Yes, because we live, breathe, and eat racist propaganda.
No, we don't.
No, it's true. Listen to this. Everybody at one point in life will experience racism, and not even by another race, by our own race. I remember that story I told you when my house was broken into by a Caucasian hippie, and I went to the police station. They came to me. Do you want me to arrest the suspect? The detective looked at him and said, "No, he's the victim." It didn't register in his mind.
That's not racism. That's stereotype.
That's racism.
That's not racism. What did the definition of racism say?
Prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one.
Let's put that in a stereotype category. He was going to do a job, and based on how you look,
beginning it could have been stereotyping, but when he got the affirmation that I was the victim and not the suspect, he still said, "You know what? This ain't working out. This ain't working out."
That could fall into him lack of doing his job. The last part you was about to read, based on what? Based on
the belief that one's own race is superior. But that's not entirely true, because a race can be racist against itself.
I hate to pause you guys, but can we try for one?
We can try to call her, and just hope that the call doesn't drop.
Good night. Are you're on the air?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. You're on the air.
Fine. Is there a gentleman in there with you guys talking about he doesn't believe it's racism?
No, we are on the same.
What question are you asking? I'll answer for you. What question are you asking? What are you asking? That he doesn't believe in racism, or
I think
he left? Dang. I'm trying to have this conversation with these guys, but
so he was he was asking someone. I guess he got the idea that
somebody didn't believe in racism.
No.
The case isn't racist related, or there's no racism in America.
Like I said at the beginning of the show, I believe that we all have experienced some sort of racism in our lives. You know what I mean, or some sort of prejudice or stereotype in our life. So as a result, we relates to your issue, Macho, your situation. I don't think that was necessarily racism. I would say more of a stereotype. Yeah, at the beginning of that, and afterwards, he just probably lack of interest for his job.
You know, a lot of people, anytime we talk about this, Caucasians in particular get very uneasy. And
well, yeah,
why do you think they get uneasy?
Understand. They don't understand. It's hard for them to relate really in that situation because.
But what do you mean? They totally understand because
no, they don't.
That's where majority of it comes from.
You don't walk into a store and you have immediately all eyes on you looking to say if you're gonna pick up something. They don't get that on an everyday basis.
But you gotta understand that majority. They have majority power. I'm not just talking about Caucasians, but I'm talking about majority power.
I believe those are the perspective I'm taking it from. So they don't feel like they're other Caucasians. They love African Americans. They're not racist anyway. So
yes, that is true.
So now they feel like, okay, they're now under this umbrella of being racist when they really aren't. So now they begin to feel somewhat uncomfortable having to go back to work the next day with their other African American friends and still be in that environment and not knowing, okay, how do I approach this situation? So a lot of them too. For those I think who feel uncomfortable, it is because of that. Those that don't feel uncomfortable in this situation because they will come out blatantly and say, okay, well, we're supporting the police officers. This is why we think this should have happened, and this is why we support the officers' actions, because that's already their mentality.
Yeah.
So
let me tell you why. If we dissect racism for what it is, who is putting these images of, okay, what's a thug in people's mind? It's the people who own the media outlets. For instance,
no, you can't just put that on.
Yes,
we ourselves, even in
that's what I was gonna say too. Because I mean, you look at BT for how many years.
You understand?
And BT was owned by Uncle Tom, a puppet. A big issue we make, just because somebody is of color and in a leadership position, they are for us. That is not true. You have things that are considered coons and Uncle Toms who are put in position to deceive and just destroy the race. Their job is to destroy.
But the point is the same though, regardless if it was controlled by someone. Because like, put yourself in that case. Would you allow someone to control you, a black person, to the point that you allow your other black brothers and sisters be depicted in a demeaning way?
At that
exactly.
point,
so now, if he allowed that, then that's exactly the point that
he's no longer.
That's the point Mr. B is making.
He
is
we
are our own.
No,
our own selves.
At that point in time, if they can be bought, they are no longer human. They're 3/5 of a human.
Yeah, but that's going to a different. But the basic point is still that they are the black brothers that still allow. They're
not brothers. They're not. Listen. When the revolution starts, they have to go.
Listen.
They have to go. When the revolution starts, they have to go. They are not for us.
Listen.
I want to get this caller. Good night, caller.
Yes, hello.
Yes, you're on the air.
You sure I'm on the air?
You're on the air for sure now. Let us hear quickly what you're saying.
Oh gosh, damn man.
Okay, for instance, my point that was making, we having technical difficulties.
But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, for instance, why I say the media, who is owned by a majority conglomerate, has a lot to do with how we view ourselves.
There you go blaming other people again.
Listen. Okay, listen.
Buy the music.
Yes, but if you brainwash somebody and don't give them a choice, because your conscience never sleeps. So if you constantly are infiltrated your mind with negative influences, how can you win? For instance, okay, let's say white suspect, Atlanta suspect, brilliant, but social misfit. Then you have a black victim. Montgomery's latest homicide victim had history of narcotics abuse, tangles with law. White suspect, son in Staten Island murders, was brilliant, athletic, but his demons were the death of his parents. Black victim, Trayvon Martin, was suspended 3 times from school. White suspect, Oregon school shooting suspect, fascinated with guns, but was devoted Mormon, his friends say. Black victim, police, slain Lake Nantine, had been shot before, death possibly drug related. White suspect, Santa Barbara shooting, suspect was soft-spoken, polite, a gentleman, ex-principal says. Black victim, Ohio man was carrying variable pump air rifle, not a toy. When cops killed him, attorney general.
Okay, we got your point. So
You see what I'm saying? So you are constantly being infiltrated your mind that we are savages, we are beasts, we are barbarians, which a term barbarians come from a derivative of Europeans who was barbaric in nature. So you have to understand that a war against the black person.
but
You have to
that's what I'm
grasp
saying.
that.
At some time, you have to own ownership to what you're feeding.
And I agree. And I understand what you're saying, Mr. B. It goes twofold.
Yes, but how can you?
So you can't just keep saying.
Have you ever heard the saying? Have you ever heard the saying?
Yeah, cookies in front of me in Kmart and whatnot, but I ain't gonna bite just because it's up in
Do you
front
think
of me.
everybody's mentally
You know
the
what I'm
same?
saying?
You think everybody's mentally sound? For instance, let me give you an example. Just as we have Albert Einsteins of humanity, those people have a higher level of consciousness. They're awake. We have those people in the black community. But when those people have tried their best to awake certain individuals like Marcus Garvey, the Malcolm X, the Martin Luther King, what happens is they are slain. So now you have a bunch of people who can be easily swayed from side to side, and our true leaders, the ones who can implement change, are destroyed, infiltrated.
I watched a show called Cosmos, right? And there's this astrophysicist guy. He's a host of the show named Neil deGrasse, right?
Yeah,
So by his nature alone, it looks as if he's been around Caucasian people a lot of times in his life. So I would say, yes, of course, he's at one point of time, had to go through racism and all that stuff and whatnot. But it didn't affect him to the way.
How many are like him? How many are
What
like
I'm
him?
saying is, it's not necessary that they're gonna stop him and say, okay, well, you're too smart or you're too conscious, or even if he's conscious in that area, it's just that it's what he chooses to accept.
And I want to stop you right
choose
there.
to use. You know what I'm saying?
We're winding down, and so I want to see if we're able to get one other caller.
Calling have to be really quick before you get cut off.
Hello, good night.
You can't believe in what they want you to believe. You have to believe in who you know who you is.
Yes.
You're going to get brainwashed.
You got it.
Hello, caller, good night. Hello, caller, good night.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Really quick.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm in here because you crossed me with somebody else who was trying to get in.
No.
We're having technical difficulties with the line.
You got it.
And you probably got cut off just now. It's only allowing a few seconds for individuals to speak.
Okay,
but as we wrap up, what's your final
that.
thoughts on the matter of our topic tonight, racism, reality or myth?
My final say, listen, we live in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, right? Yes, what's going on up there is it's groundbreaking. It needs to be happening and all that stuff. But we have bigger problems down here. You know what I'm saying? We have bigger problems down here. And for us to really be so involved in their stuff up there,
injustice
and we have
anywhere
stuff down here that's going on
everywhere.
To me, it's like, whoa. It's like, whoa. That energy we put in towards that focusing thing, yes, is needed and yes, is warranted. But man, could you imagine if we took to the streets and did that down here?
Yeah, that's a good point you just brought up, Ben Benaya. Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Imagine we took to the streets and did that down here as far as
for the issues that are affecting us,
or jobs, or government, or salary. Honestly, can you imagine? And we all write up about stuff up there.
No,
man, give me
people.
a break. The energy that people put into that, man. You imagine we bring that down here, man. We got a lot of things done. A lot of things done.
I really want to thank everyone out there in the audience for listening. This was Talk PM, and our topic for the night was racism. Is it reality? Matthew, you have some final words?
Yeah, my final words is that it's very real, and we need to take it head on, and we can't wait for somebody else to take it head on for us. If we want it to change, we need to come together as a conglomerate and request change or take change and let them know we ain't playing. The hour went by so fast. I think we can have a part 2 if we wanted to. But as I said before, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to Talk PM. Good night.
Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
At Great Minds Tutoring Service, we too believe in education. If your child needs assistance, assist him or her by calling Great Minds Tutoring Service 340-227-5915. Visit our website, greatmindsts.com.
Great Minds Tutoring Service 340-227-5915. Invest in your child today.
'Cause darling, I will get good grades for you.
Facing the loss of a loved one is one of the most difficult realities to grasp. During this emotional period, we understand how hard it can be for families to do proper maintenance towards that grave or memorial.
At Grave Care Virgin Islands, we offer premier burial and memorial maintenance services. We are ready to assist you if you are unable to do so yourself.
Call us today at 340-643-8898 and also visit us via webpage at gravecarevi.com.